Hi, I'm Zach, WordPress teacher at Treehouse. And today we're going to do a workshop on how to create a one-page website using WordPress. So you've probably seen this type of site before. You have a navigation bar across the top, and you can click to the About, the Services, the Portfolio, the Contact section, and it will scroll you down to that point in the page. Commonly, these type of sites also have some cool parallax effects or some animation coming in at different points, and you could easily add that to it as well. So we won't be going into the CSS styling of it, but what we're going to look at today is how to build a traditional one-page site in WordPress, giving the user an ability to log into the back end and edit each section as it would be a page. So this is going to work very similar to how a brochure site would on the back end, where you'd go into Pages, and then you could select, the About page, click in there, and edit the content. Except rather than showing up on individual pages, it will just scroll down to that point. So let's jump in and take a look at what we need set up here with WordPress and all of that, and we'll get started. So I'm running MAMP here, and I have a local site set up at WP Treehouse, one-page WordPress site. So of course, to do this, to follow along, you're going to need to have WordPress installed here. You could either be doing this locally, or you can do it remotely on a server somewhere. Either way will work. We don't really need too much installed or set up here. The one thing I will show you, though, is that under Pages, I have the following pages. And they just have dummy content inside of them, but we will need these in order to be able to scroll down to different sections. So just to start off, pause it, take a quick moment, create 4 or 5 pages in there, and just throw in some dummy placeholder content that will allow us to demo scrolling up and down. So we have this set up and ready. We also have the issue of where do we want to start our theme from. We could code this from scratch, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go to underscores.me, and underscores.me is the automatic created, a lot of folks that work on WordPress created starter theme that works as a really bare bones code base for us to get up and running. So I'm going to set up a theme here. I'm going to download this code, and we're going to use that as our starting point. It's going to be a real bare bones looking simple site that, again, is just focusing on the functionality. So I'm going to call my theme One Page Theme, and just click Generate, download it, and go ahead and open that up. And if you've worked with WordPress development before, you probably have if you're following along with this. It has a whole bunch of basic files and all the code in them that you would need to get started with the basic WordPress theme. So I could then go in and drop this into my themes folder. So I'll go ahead and open up my themes folder for this site now. And I'm going to come down into the one-page WordPress site, come into my content folder, into themes, and now I had one here that's my final working theme already done. So I've named this starter theme a little bit different. I'm going to copy and paste that in here. Oop, not into that folder. Right into here. And now it should be available in the admin area for me to go in and select it to be the active theme. So, one page theme, it's this right here. I'm going to click Activate, and I come back and visit my site, and this is what the starter theme looks like by default. We have some links up here. It goes to the different pages. It shows the content, but there's 0 styling. There is all of the widget code and everything else and menu code that we need, just no styling. That's okay for the moment, but we could add in some quick styling here to just make this a little bit easier to sort out and make it visually able to navigate so that we could at least test the different components we want. So you'll have this available to download. I'm just going to copy in the styles from the finished theme so that we have those and we don't really have to worry about looking at any sort of styling. But to come down to the bottom, when you download the underscores theme, it comes with a whole bunch of generated code and CSS here. And when we come down to the bottom, we could add our own custom CSS. So I'm going to take this custom CSS that, again, you'll be able to download and just drop that in to my style sheet for this active theme. So let me bring up the active theme in my code editor. Again, I'm inside of my WordPress folder, inside WP Content and Themes. I'm going to get the active theme that we're working with, and I'm using Sublime Text 2 as my text editor. Now I can open up my style sheet, scroll to the bottom, and paste in that custom CSS. Now when we refresh the page, we're going to see something where we have some content floated, we have some headline and typography adjustment, just for the visual effects so that we could see what's going on. And we also have a very simple sticky menu up top. One thing that you'll have to play around with is that when you're logged into WordPress, you have this navigation bar here, but when you're logged out, you don't have it. So you have to account for whether or not you're logged in. Maybe if you want this positioned all the way across the very top of the page, that won't work if you're logged into the site, because that admin area menu bar will overlap over top of your menu. So I want to show you something kind of cool that will let you conditionally work with this. There's a WordPress tag called body class, and when that is added to the header, you get a logged in class and an admin bar class. So with our navigation, we can change the height and the margin and where it appears just by putting .admin bar in front of our class. That will let us style the position of it a little bit lower when you're logged in, and then bump it up a little bit higher when you're logged out. Not going to go into the styling, but if you're working with CSS, that little trick should make sense and help you out in that area. So now we have a core site looking how we would want it to if it was a more traditional brochure style site that had an individual page for each page or each section of the site for in this case. What we want to do now is we want to make a static homepage, and we want to then have all the page content, instead of showing up on individual pages, just loop out on the homepage itself. So we're going to first come in and customize our theme, and under static front page we should have a home page, and we'll make sure that that's selected, save and publish. And now we have a and now instead of our latest blog post on the homepage, we have our homepage itself. Now that we have this, we're going to create a custom template that will loop out each of the pages using WP query. So let's jump over then into our template code, and we're going to start with our page.php template and rename that into a custom template. So that's what this will look like. We'll take our page.php, which is the default template that's used for all static pages, and we're going to remove this comment and say template name. Now, if you're working with WordPress, you should hopefully have this code memorized by now. This is what you need to put at the top of a theme in order to create a custom template, and we're going to call this one-page site. And so now we should be able to, when we edit our home page, under template, select one-page site. And now if we just threw some code in here before the loop to make sure that, oh, I'm sorry, we still have this named page. So that's not good. We need to rename this to be one-page site. And then I need to close up, go back to my original page, remove the test. So page is now, has to have that come out. Page is clean, restored to its original state. And now this will be our one-page template, has the test in there. We may have to reselect it. Okay, It's got test. Here we are. What we need then is we need the WP query function in order to, instead of selecting an individual page, tell it to select all of the pages. And I'm going to go grab that finished code real quick. And then I'll paste it in to show you what we're working with. We're going to remove what's here. Okay, so we have our arguments for the WP query, which is right down here, and we're saying select all the post types and sort them ascending. You can get into sorting with different orders if you wanted to, but we're just going to use it as this. And now, very quickly, we have home, about me, portfolio, contact. And this is the same content. Portfolio here is if we go to the portfolio page. Right, we're seeing that it's just all displaying right here. The problem is that the navigation is still linking to an individual page rather than to the section of the page that we want it to. So how do we solve that? Two ways. First, we have to add an ID tag to each title or to each article section here. And then we need to create internal links using what would look like a hashtag and then the ID to jump us down the page. So we'll start inside of our one-page site template. And we could see that what we're doing is we're calling the get template part content-page. And what this means is that at this point, WordPress is going to go find a file called content-page.php. That's how this is broken up. First segment is the first part of the file, and then this would be the second. If it was written like this, it would just be content.php. And so content.page.php, which is right here, is being loaded at that point. When this is loaded, it's loading in post and then the ID as the ID for the article. So if I were to come in and inspect this element right here, come up to my article, it says post-5. What we want to do instead is have this be home, or have it be about me, or have it be portfolio. Basically, we want to echo out the slug of the page instead of an ID tag. Now to do this, I'll pull in the code again real quick, and then I'll show you what it's doing. We have to do two things. First, we have to bring in the global variable of post. And what this does is just by calling this, we now have access to be able to use anything related to this post as part of this variable or part of this object. So what I could do is paste in this code here. Okay, so we're pulling in the post, and then this is echoing out the post name or the slug of that post, which is what's normally used in the URL. So if we refresh our page and come back, we now see, when we inspect this element, ID of portfolio. This is perfect because the way browsers work is that if we just add hashtag portfolio, it will jump down, search through our source code, and find an ID tag that matches whatever is after the hash. And that's what will allow us to jump around our site like this. So what we have to do now is make sure that our menu is using hashtags instead of using full URLs. And here's how we would do that. We're going to come in here and delete all of this. You may or may not have a static menu already set up. I haven't really done much here, so I'm just going to delete this, and we're going to start fresh. And instead of using the pages, how we would normally say, okay, I want to link to the portfolio page, let's do it that way. We're going to come under links, and I'm just going to put hashtag. This will be the link to home, because if you just put hash with nothing after, it'll jump to the top of the page. So that will jump us to the top of the page. And then about me. And then portfolio. and then contact. And notice that the link text can be different than here. So even though this isn't contact-us, we could still have the link be contact us. And if you ever needed to edit those later on, you could come in and do that or add extra. Now, I will note here that it's tricky to have this work dynamically because WordPress, in some cases, let's create this menu, top static menu. WordPress gives us this option to automatically add pages that are added, and you don't want to have this checked. The reason is because it will add in a link directly to the page rather than with the hashtag to that section. Now, you could here do some extra JavaScript work and basically have this be a normal link and then strip the URL down and jump to that section just using the end segment. And so basically, without JavaScript, you would have a multiple page site, and with it, you would have a single page site. You could do that, but we're just going to show the simpler approach here of making this our primary menu, saving the menu, come back to view our site, and now it should jump us. Cool. Perfect. That's working. Now, it's not super smooth, and I want to make that extra step and have it slide nicely. So if I just Google jQuery scroll to, I'm going to use this code right here. And we're going to modify this so that we could have a nice scroll element. And that's a great thing to note, that if you get stuck with something or you're just wondering how to do it, when you end up on Stack Overflow and getting little code segments, this is good and a necessary part. And I came to this just by searching jQuery scroll to. It's going to give me what I want, and now I could go and implement it into my site. So how do we implement this into the site? This theme already comes with some JavaScript files linked up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this customizer and just resave it as theme.js. And then remove everything inside of here. So notice that we have function. They're using this method of loading jQuery rather than document load. This theme was made by some wicked smart people, and I'd suggest following the conventions that you find in it. And I'll definitely be working more with this theme in the future at Treehouse, so it's a good one to know and work with. And we're going to follow this model here of where to put in our code. So I know that my navigation is a nav element, and I have anchor tags, and I want to scroll when I click on those anchor tags. And then what I need is the element of where I'm going to scroll to. Now this is a little tricky because it depends. This link is going to scroll to About Me, this one's going to scroll to Portfolio, this one's going to scroll to Contact Us. So what I have to do is, using JavaScript, I have to go in and get the href value right here for each link. So what I'm going to do is say var link is equal to this, meaning the specific link, its attribute, that's href. So this right here will give me the link. So when I click on About Me, it should give me hashtag About Me. Then I could paste right here the link. So let's just test this out a little bit now. And it doesn't look like it's working. In fact, if I were to come into my source code and look for theme.js, it's not even loading. And the reason is because we haven't taken the extra step to make sure that this theme is loading our theme file. And the way we would do that is come into our functions.js and search for the enqueue scripts. So this line right here on 93 is where they're loading their navigation.js, which we could see is right here. So I'm going to copy this code, and down below it, one page theme, custom, theme.js. I'm going to remove version numbers, make sure that it's dependent on jQuery. If you haven't worked with enqueuing JavaScript this way, definitely go check out our theme development courses. We get into a good bit of detail on how this all works and how to set it up. But now if I refresh my page and search for theme.js, voila, there it is. Now I've had this problem before and I'm not sure why, which is it automatically attaches the version number on even though I left that parameter empty, and it won't, well, let's see, it seems to be working now. Let's see. In the past I've had it where that didn't work, and there's a certain hack to remove those versions, but you know what? Looks like it's working well for us. Just that example code is a little slow. Let's change this. 600. There we go. Scroll to the top. Okay. So there we have it. This is a pretty simple, now notice that when I scrolled up, see how this changed here and the menu is now blocked. So that's one place where you will need to play with your media queries, and you'll need to play with whether you're logged in or out of the site and how the menu is affected, because what's really happening is it's dropping down to one of those, one of these style menus. So it's getting covered up. But it is technically working. Okay, so we're now at the point where we've basically fleshed out how to make pages available in the admin area. Nothing new there, we just add the pages as they normally exist. We've looked at how to create a custom template, which hopefully shouldn't be new to you, and use WP Query to pull in all of the pages. Now it is possible to customize that WP Query so that you're only pulling in specific pages, or you could write unique queries each time and just list out specific pages that you want here and there on the page. There's a lot that's possible to customize with that. There's also a whole other approach that we didn't take, which is to use some of the drag and drop layout or page layout builders that are available in WordPress. And basically, these would give you an enhanced visual editor. So when you log in to edit the home page, you would then see in that space the ability to edit the About section, the Work section, each one of those little ones, all from editing one single page rather than editing multiple. And we didn't take a look at that approach here, but that is one potential approach to you. I also poked around a little bit and found some cool plugins that begin to try to automate the JavaScript process. However, this is the type of JavaScript as a WordPress developer you really shouldn't be afraid to try to tackle on your own. You know, you saw that it was really just a few lines to get what we needed. So rather than try to pull in some of the plugins for that, I think it's probably a better approach if you're building your theme, just try to tackle that on your own. But if you do have complex single pages, either a whole single page site or multiple pages with complex layouts, you may want to look into one of those page layout builders. So before we wrap up, I want to give a big shout out to one of our Treehouse students, because he is the reason that we have this workshop and this topic. So Demir here sent me an email saying that he'd worked through our WordPress courses, which we could see down here. Very awesome, mate. And he had some questions about how to take what he had learned and build a one-page site. And I thought it was pretty cool that if we pop open his site from his Treehouse portfolio, we could see, check this out. He's using it, but it doesn't look like this site is currently running on WordPress. So hopefully this short workshop will give you what you need, Demir, as well as anybody else trying to tackle this topic, the code and the starting point you need to be able to do what you want in WordPress. So with that, I want to encourage you to reach out on the forums and reach out to me as a teacher and let me know what it is that you're trying to work out, because we have a great ability here at Treehouse to be able to put out WordPress courses based on what you're asking for. A lot of what drives our library beyond the basic content is student requests. So I encourage you, take what you've learned here, go out into the world, build your own real projects. We're finding that nothing is more important for that extra job readiness step than having a portfolio, really working stuff out. And then you'll find out things like, you know, maybe you aren't comfortable building a one-page site or want to know how this or this would work with WordPress. Reach out and I'll try to help deliver that content for you. So until then, keep on learning.